Hello and welcome to another episode of the Chrissie Mayr podcast. We are on iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, and SoundCloud. And if you're listening to us on iTunes right now, please leave us a 5-star review. Very excited about a bunch of stand-up dates coming up this Saturday, December 11th. I'll be at TIFF's in Morris Plains, New Jersey, with the comedians of the Compound, also known as the Dojo of Comedy, there in Morris Plains, New Jersey. Then, December 12th, I'm heading to Hartford to headline the Hartford Funny Bone. And then December 13th, I'll be in Arkansas headlining the Little Rock Looney Bin. Then heading back to Texas with Anthony Cumia and Aaron Berg. We're going to be performing at the Hyenas there in Dallas for 2 nights, 15th and 16th, and then doing a bunch of appearances at the Blaze. It's going to be great. And then I'm recording my first album on Thursday, January 6th at Governor's in Levittown, Long Island. So excited to do that. Want to see you at the shows. And then I've got a bunch of dates after the 6th, but like you can see scrolling down there, Albany, Danbury, Connecticut, Savannah, Georgia, Tampa, Florida. Always adding new dates. Go to my website, ChrissieMayr.com, for details and tickets. I also have a bunch of fun merch. I've started collaborating with Silk City Hot Sauce. This is my own hot sauce, guys. How exciting. It's called Nightmare. It's a green verde sauce. Great on eggs. Great on everything. Go to levinskystopshelf.com. They're usually $10, but if you use the promo code CMP, you get a couple bucks off. Why not? Super delish. If you're a hot sauce person, you will love this. Also, I have fun t-shirts for sale at TeePublic. This one is perfect for Christmas. It says, have yourself a Mayor Chrissy Miss. As you can see, I love the puns. And if you're a little bit more feeling the patriot vibe, get this Make America Great Again. And that mayor may not be my real body. Get the shirt and figure it out. Awesome, guys. This is fun. I'm so excited for this special. I'm even more excited for our next guest. I've wanted to snag him for a long time, so I'm so thrilled that he's here. He is the host of Will and Amala Live on PragerU. He's also the author of How to Win Friends and Influence Enemies, which is a national bestseller. So excited to have him here with me today. Will Witt, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing? Thanks for having me on.
I'm doing great. I was like, I'm so sorry because my back lights are not working. So it's I'm trying to like just bring it with more makeup and distract from my technical difficulties.
No, don't worry. I'm supposed to be in a better studio for these kinds of things, but it's under construction right now, so I'm in this horrible dinky office. So
Yeah, this office
everyone has to
looks
deal with
like
that too.
the office setting you're in right now. It looks like you're about to fire us all from a Zoom call.
Yeah, I need you all to come into my office and discuss something real quick.
Did you hear about that? The guy, like he fired like 900 people from a Zoom call. I forget what company, but I just was like,
I
and
heard that.
then he
Yep.
had a bunch of executives leave because it turns out they didn't like how he did business. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, what a terrible thing.
Well, have you kind of always been in the political commentary world, or did you used to work in corporate America? Like, what was your journey like to now, being on PragerU?
Yeah, I was definitely not in the political world before. I guess I was more in the idiot world before and partying, and those are kind of the things that I cared about. And I was also on the left, and I was in the atheist world, and those were the things that I really prioritized in my life. And then I went to college at CU Boulder back in Colorado, which we called the People's Republic of Boulder because it's just a wild place to be. And everything changed when I went to CU Boulder and saw just how terrible they were to anyone with a different point of view. I mean, I was, even being a liberal, when I was going into my sociology classes, which were useless classes, the TA is talking about white privilege and how terrible white people are and black people are oppressed and all these things. And I was like, this doesn't make much sense. I don't feel like I'm oppressing any black people, right? Even someone who felt like I was on the left
But
and had
you
heard these
are.
things that people were talking
Yeah,
about. Yeah, exactly. And I'm like,
just by
what is going on
living.
with this?
Mhm.
Just by breathing. And that didn't make much sense to me. And so after that, I started questioning a lot of things and eventually started doing a lot of research and getting very involved. And I found out about PragerU through all I was doing. And I decided to make a video for them on my campus where I went and asked women what they thought about the wage gap and sent it to PragerU, edited the video. They loved it and they ended up giving me a job. So after 2 years of college, dropped out of school, moved to Los Angeles from
Wow.
Colorado. And so that was about 4 years ago from now.
Wow, good for you. And so what year was this that you were noticing on campus just the intolerance of different opinions?
So that was 2016. That was when Trump was running for the first time. And I mean, sure, when I went, I remember going to campus on the day that Trump won. And I mean, there's kids in like prayer circles. They're holding their arms together. They're wearing their pink feminist hats. They're crying. And I'm walking
Wow.
around. I have my MAGA hat on. I'm like, what are you
You
guys
were
doing?
walking around with a
Like,
MAGA hat the day after Trump got elected?
of course,
Ah.
of course. You got to hold your ground up to these people.
Did anybody approach you? Did anybody talk shit?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, that is my life usually, is
Mhm.
people coming and saying horrible things to me everywhere I go. So, um, that's just par for the course of being someone who stands up for things they believe in.
Wow, that's really neat, and I'm sure you weren't planning to not finish college. What were you going for? Like, what was your degree gonna be?
Yeah, I was an English major, and so I wanted to be a music journalist actually. So music is kind of my thing. So I wanted to write about music and everything like that. Um, Obviously that didn't happen.
I mean, you
I
probably
wanted
can
to write.
still do that.
Yeah, I still do it a little bit, like, in my free time. Music is still, like, my biggest passion. I do a lot of research and playlists and all sorts of things like that, but not so much in the I wanted to work for Rolling Stone, and now you see some of the things
Oh.
Rolling Stone is publicizing, and you're like, "Wow, I dodged a bullet there."
It's almost like yeah, I feel the same way, like, when I was in college, I interned at NBC, and it was my dream to be
Uh-huh.
I had 2 internships there because I really wanted to be a reporter. I interned at Dateline, then I was like, "Ugh, this is horrible, this is so boring." Then I interned at Conan when he was still in New York, and then I was like, "Oh, wow, like, I don't know what I'm gonna do in comedy, but I know that this is my scene, these are my people." And even after that, I was like, oh, so badly wanted to work at NBC, wanted to get a page job, which pays like nothing. And it's like
Mhm.
one of the worst jobs. But again, I was like 21. What did I know?
Right.
And I didn't get it, even though I was so like prepared. Like I gave tours on my college campus. I was like Little Miss College, like giving tours, like Little Miss Fairfield. And I had the
Mhm.
2 internships, and I was crushed when I didn't get that NBC page job. And now I look at mainstream media and I'm like, oh, like thank God I didn't get that job because I could have very easily been put into a system where I probably I wouldn't have had the freedom to think the thoughts that I've, you know, and had my mind changed over the past, like, I guess, 8 years or so. I would have been kind of, like, in the system, I guess.
Yeah. It's definitely tough to know when something like that happens because I think there is a lot of degree of that conservatives and people, or at least people who love freedom, need to get into those kinds of places. Like if you want to change NBC, we got to get people who are in NBC to go and change it. So I, it's hard to say what could have happened there while you were there. You might have actually taken down the whole company. Who knows?
Oh,
But
wow.
you
Yeah.
know,
Maybe I
so
could have been sexually harassed and messed some things up.
yeah, exactly. I mean, that seems to be happening at a lot of these mainstream places. So
I
it
remember
wouldn't be
being
surprising.
right out of college, and I had a interview to be somebody's assistant at Fox. I think that person was named Sherry. God, I should really look it up. But I didn't I remember being like, "Oh," like, not wanting to tell anybody I was interviewing at Fox. It's
Uh
just,
huh.
you get so you're so, sponge-like when you're in your 20s, especially when you're in college, and I just feel like so many college kids are being taken advantage of, and there's so much pressure just from friends. Like, if all of your friends have a pussy hat and are meeting in a prayer circle the day after Trump wins, like, what are you gonna not do that?
Exactly. The pressures of all these things are way more important than actually what you believe in. Like you got your babysitter has an Obama bumper sticker. It's like, why does she have that? Does she know anything about Obama? Does she know anything about the Democrats? No, she doesn't. But all her friends are doing, and it's cool. This is the cool thing to do. It is the cool thing to go and cry after they think our country has been taken over by a dictator.
Did you in your sort of conflicts with other, kids on you're not kids, like young people on campus, did you feel, like, compelled to debate people to ask them why they felt the way they did? Or did you feel more like, I will stand my ground, I'll wear my Trump hat, but I don't really wanna engage with anybody?
No, I was very big on engagement. So the reason why I made that first video for PragerU is because every day I would go out on my campus and I would just debate kids. And I would skip all my classes just to set up a table and go and debate kids. Right. So that's
Really?
what that's what I
Oh,
used to
wow.
do. Yeah, so I got pretty good at being able to talk to people. That's why I wrote my book as well, because of giving other people the tools on how to have these conversations actually with people, because I've done it so much. But it would be funny because my professors would walk by and they'd see me, and I was skipping the class that they just came out of because I was here talking to kids about abortion or socialism or whatever it was. So there was always an awkwardness there. But I
You're like,
love doing it.
oops.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I think that we have to engage with the other side and show them how exposed what they are doing. That's what I was doing when I was going out there and talking to all these people. I was exposing them.
Yeah, and good for you. That's a real skill. Um, because it's even something like I've done man on the street interviews and I'll like go up to people and even years ago, you're like trying to sell comedy tickets or give out like I will go up to people, but it's really a skill to be able to debate your points because it's so like how do you handle emotions? I'm sure that's just a big part of it because
Mhm,
nobody wants to be told that they're wrong. Nobody of course wants to be told like, yeah, you kind of have the wrong friends or you might be brainwashed or your parents might not be the most like well researched. So how do
mhm.
you approach like, how do you address the kind of emotional angle of debate?
I tweeted about this last night. I think that every conservative in America needs to read Saul Alinsky's Rule for Radicals, because the rules that he has in there essentially are the left's playbook on how they have been able to take control in a charismatic way. I think that some of the major things that I put in my book, especially with the title, is logic and humor. That's like the undertitle, taking on liberal arguments with logic and humor. Humor is something that Alinsky talks about as well. That if you can make these people laugh or you can expose them through humor, it is so important. It is so absolutely important because they know that people can come together when you can be humorous together, right? When you can be humorous with someone, then you have a very good chance of changing their minds. I think there was an example in the book where he was talking about, having black people go to like a show and having them fart loudly, and then the white people on the upper crowd is like hearing them, and it's like, yeah, that's something that's very humorous and weird and everyone's laughing at fart jokes, but it proves a point because you're almost saying like these white people are racist for calling out these black people who are farting, right? It's like you can do political things in a way that involves humor to really prove your point. It is the number one like unifying thing.
Yeah, it is so important, and it's a way for you can a way that you can gently change somebody's mind because we don't have control over what we laugh at. It's involuntary. Um, we've all laughed at like jokes that are inappropriate that we shouldn't be laughing at. Like we've all, laughed at something that made fun of a group you're not supposed to make fun of,
Hmm.
and that's how I kind of became sort of politically activated because I saw, I was like, wow, if free speech is harmed, then we really can't approach comedy the same way. And even comedy has been harmed already, but I just feel like there's a few of us kind of speaking out, and then we get called like racist or homophobic or like women haters or whatever, all the bad words, and it's just like,
Hmm.
and it's so hypocritical because everyone. You know what I mean? Like tons of people laugh at white people every day. You know what I mean? It's like, okay,
Right.
some groups are okay to laugh at and some groups aren't. So it is important to use laughter to change people's
Yeah.
minds because it's a less kind of preachy way. And it's like if you're already laughing, you're already, kind of loosened up.
Yeah. You see, that's how you know that you've won. That's how you know that if these people have to resort to calling you a racist or a woman hater or white supremacist or sexist, any of these different things, that means that you have won. You should be proud of the fact that they are saying that about us. Anyone who's listening to this right now, you should be proud of the fact that people are coming and saying that to you, because what that means is that they do not have an argument to battle the things that you are actually saying. When they say something, all you have to do is ask, why? Why? Why is that true? And then they won't be able to give you an answer, and then they call you a racist, right? So if they do that, you need to be proud of the fact that they say that. Don't try and be coy away from people calling you those things. It's almost like a badge of honor in a way that you have defeated what they have tried to tell you.
I love that you see it that way. It is hard though. It's like I'm way better at it now. I have a much thicker skin, but like a couple years ago, like it used to really hurt to be called like a racist or like whatever, a transphobe. Like I remember a couple years ago, this is when I hosted a show at the Stonewall Inn, which is a LGBT landmark in New York City and I think also nationally. And I made this tweet where there was a parrot, like, how parrots can like say things. It was a parrot just like barking, and I made this tweet like, "Oh, this parrot is just like transitioning or something to a dog." Like the lamest, corniest joke. And then I have people being, oh, you're not an ally. You're a whack ally. Like, you don't deserve to host a show at this place. And like, the longer this goes on, you're like, oh, these people were so jealous. Like, they didn't deem me like gay enough to be working in this space. And it's like, look, I've drunkenly made out with a lot of women. All right. Let me and also, who cares? It's like I was constantly scouting for LGBT talent, whatever. And I didn't really, it's weird that's when I noticed like the segregation kind of weirdly creeping in. And I just want to know, like, how did you get a thick skin and take people's insults as a badge of honor?
Yeah. I will just say one thing to what you're just saying. Marxism as a whole, I mean, all these rules for radicals and all these types of things, they work on community standards by destroying the individual, and they do that through deceit. And so, if you do not have total compliance of a person or a community group or anything like that to come and say you have to think exactly the certain way, then you are a pariah, and they will excommunicate you from it. That is their plan. That is why they do that. That's why you can agree with 99% of everything they say, and then as soon as you disagree with one little thing or make one little joke, you're done. I think I got the thick skin. It's hard to say. I remember when I first started at PragerU and started making these videos. This is when no one knew who I was, and I made this video about feminism and men and women and about traditional gender roles, right? And it was something that I might have gone a little too far for what some of the conservatives were saying at the time, but I really believed it, so I put it out, and I just got absolutely thrashed. I mean, Will Witt canceled on Twitter, all these kinds of things. People just trying to absolutely destroy me for what I was saying. And after I've had a few of those, I've had that with that video. I had it with a video I did on European mass migration, a Boy Scout video where I've had my old high school teachers come after me. I mean, all sorts of things. I've just gotten so used to it, I guess, at a point that it's like, what else are you going to do?
Mm.
People are going to continue to say vile and horrible things. And at one point, it's like, okay, I was very worried about what people were going to think about me. I cared more about being funny, and I cared more about getting invited to, the parties of the old school conservatives or the people who were very like the New York Times people. I wanted them to invite me to their parties, essentially that's what I wanted. And now I'm like, I don't need those people to speak the truth and to do the things that I do. I am much less worried about what those people think and much more worried about the people who actually appreciate the things that I am saying when I am being honest with the world. And so being able to do those things and speak my mind like that has really turned off the haters in a way. That it's like nothing you say can affect me. You can't affect me with those kinds of things because they are blatantly false. And if these are things that I believe and they're ordained by God, if it's biblical word that I'm speaking to people, then there's really nothing you can do.
It's interesting that, like when you first started out, you kind of looked to the more maybe establishment GOP folks for like maybe a source of validation or like, oh, they consider me to be in, I'm good now. Like this is the way to connect connections and moving up in the world and like being recognized. And it almost seems like so many content creators and just political commentators in this space are able to kind of sidestep the establishment and make a dent. And really, it's like you've created like such a large following just on people who love you and, kind of trust your take on things that it's like, you don't really need these bigger people, these, more important people, I guess we would think. Or it's just like, right, their authority, their forms of authority. It's like over the years, it seems like you're like, well, I have my fans and it's kind of a nice freedom. I'm sure it feels like good to not need that validation.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. I mean, and these people who are so many of these people who are Republican leadership or whatever you want to call it are incredibly weak. I mean, just I think it was last week there were these congressmen. I believe Mitch McConnell was one of them. They're outside on the Capitol steps. They have masks on outside, and they're holding up trans flags, right? And it's like,
For
okay,
real?
yeah. And I'm
Oh,
like, okay, even
no.
I'm like, even let's say even if this wasn't virtue signaling, okay, and you actually cared about trans people, what does holding up a trans flag outside of the Capitol steps actually do for trans people? You're not doing anything. First of all. Second of all,
All
I mean,
optics.
this
It's
you are
like yeah.
it's all optics, and you're not doing this for your base. Obviously, you're doing this so that the New York Times and the Washington Post will write good things about you, so that your fellow Democrats in Congress who want to destroy this country will say better things about you. But these people who you are trying to win affection from despise you. their way of life, the things that they want to accomplish in this country are totally uh, incongruent with our values. So them going out and doing those kind of things just shows their weakness. And so me as someone who says, I'm not going to be a sellout to these people, I'm going to continue to say what I'm going to say, is what gives people like me and the people who are outside the establishment that sort of audience where people are like, we demand, we don't just want, we demand authenticity because it has been stolen from us for so long.
Can you remember the first time that you saw something from the GOP that made you go like, "Oh, that doesn't really represent me," or like, "Oh, this is superficial," or like they're not making moves on behalf of the people?
Yeah, I mean, it started immediately once I started getting into politics. And when I was getting into politics, again, it was when Trump was running for office, and so he was no coward when it came to calling out his own or calling people out on his own side, right? And so, but what I noticed, I mean, when 2016 came around, and Republicans had the House, the Senate, and the presidency, and don't even think about getting abortion outlawed. They couldn't even get Planned Parenthood defunded, right? This is something that they couldn't do. We couldn't do
Hmm.
anything about big tech censorship, about election integrity. I mean, there are a lot of problems. So much of this because the leadership is just weak. They don't want to do these things. They want to play it safe. You know who's not playing it safe? Ron DeSantis isn't playing it safe. He is a trailblazer. He's a rebel rouser, and he is a rabble rouser, and he is going out and causing a scene and doing all the right things. But most people don't have the balls like him to go and do that. But he's an example of what others should be like.
He's been very inspiring. It seems like he has taking risks and like just big picture thinking. Do you think that Trump just wasn't the hero we all thought he would be, or do you think, well, the people around him kind of stifled him and kept him from keeping his promises? Like, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, there's definitely a mixed bag there. I know that some people in the, again, old school type of conservative libertarian types will say, he didn't do anything, he didn't do anything. But let's look at this case happening right now with Mississippi and Roe v. Wade, right? Trump appointed these judges. Trump appointed conservative judges all across the country. People want to say Trump didn't do anything or what Trump is doing isn't actually good for the people. Imagine if Hillary Clinton was president and would have put three new left-wing judges. We would have lost our Second Amendment by now, right? So Trump being able to do something like that already is a huge win for Donald Trump. I do think there are things that he could have done better. I think that he probably could have been stronger on some things. And we know Trump. We know he likes the press and these kinds of things. He likes the publicity. That we know that, right? But I wish that he would have focused less on those kinds of things and more focused on some of the policies that the American people really wanted. More on immigration, more on big tech censorship, more on election integrity. Well, he still could, things like that nature. But it's hard to say, to have a real inside look. I am not in Washington D.C. I'm in Los Angeles, and I'm not super involved with the lobbying groups in the swamp and those kinds of things to know what he was up against. But from what I've seen and from meeting him and talking with his family and other people who are around, I mean, there seems to be no doubt in my mind that that man was genuine, and the things that he was doing was for America.
Yeah, I'm surprised he really didn't see the big tech censorship coming. Like he must have known from day one how much everyone hated him, how much the swamp hated him. Everyone in the establishment just still to this day can't get over that he won. So it's like I wish he could have thought, or maybe he did think it's like, yeah, they're gonna ban me the first chance they get, or if he just didn't think it would happen. He just thought, I'm the president. They can't do that.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know exactly what he was thinking in that moment, but what I do know is that he had 4 years to do something about big tech censorship. I mean, they took meetings in the House, in Congress, with Mark Zuckerberg and Jack Dorsey and all these guys, and basically all the Republican leadership said, "We're not going to do anything about this." Google is one of the biggest lobbying firms in America. Okay, they're giving money to both Republicans and Democrats, and Republicans are coming out and saying, "Listen, we support the First Amendment. We're constitutionalists, right?" And then they're taking money from Google. PragerU, who I work for, is suing Google for restricting our videos or suing YouTube for restricting our
Wow.
videos, right? And it's like your values don't align. How are you taking money from the enemy? Why are you taking money from the enemy? You can't say that you represent me when you are taking money from people who want to radically change this country and destroy voices like mine.
How did you guys first learn that YouTube was thwarting your reach? Or I guess were you being shadow banned or just
So
the
it's, yeah,
reach was
restricted.
limited? Okay.
So so restricted is a different term. So restricted essentially means that our videos aren't allowed in certain places. They're like age restricted. And so they say that many of our videos are pornographic or extremist or violent, these kinds of things, right? And so then and it's like we have videos with like Alan Dershowitz, or
Yeah.
videos on history about like the Vietnam War. Apparently that's very pornographic. And what essentially this means is that places like school, public libraries, places that have any sort of public Wi-Fi, you will not be able to watch PragerU videos on YouTube, which
Which is
is,
scary because you're trying to
yeah.
reach the young people. You're trying to reach the people in college, in high school that are being bombarded with propaganda.
I mean, that's exactly right. We are trying to reach young people and they are restricting the video so that a kid looking up school homework, maybe wants to know about the Korean War and he goes to look and that video won't come up from PragerU, but oh wait, there's a Vox video on the Korean War. Shouldn't that be age restricted too? Oh no, that one's not restricted. Or videos on the Ten Commandments. Oh, kids can go look up those videos, but the video on the Ten Commandments about do not murder that we have was restricted. So
Wow.
it is a total double standard with these people and these big tech entities, these overlords, the oligarchy. They want to have their cake and eat it too. They want to act like they are a publishing tool with editorial control, but then they also want to say that they're a public forum open to all. And it doesn't work that way. You can't have it both ways.
Yeah, is PragerU interested in perhaps, like, going the way of Daily Wire where they wanna, like, create films or shows or, like, are they interested in expanding out, their I guess their reach or their content at all?
Yeah, so I mean, I have a show. I do a daily show with Amala, and then I've been doing Man on the Street stuff. And then we have a few like monthly shows, things like that. We have like our book club show with Michael Knowles. We used to have Candace show, which just kind of moved into some different things. So, and then Dennis's fireside chat as well, among some other content. And now we have our stories of us, which kind of highlights stories of people who have transformed their lives through whether it was freedom or conservatism, religion, whatever it is. So we have a few different types of shows that we are doing now on PragerU, and it's been really cool to expand. But as a digital media company, we're very focused on our social media side, which is including YouTube. And so the fact that our videos get restricted there, and it's not just our 5-minute videos, it's other videos of ours that get restricted. Some of my videos have been restricted on the platform. So it's all encompassing.
Yeah. How did you team up with Amala? How did you guys meet?
So Amala was just essentially just a young girl on TikTok who was a radical leftist her entire life. I talked about me being a leftist, but I was more just kind of like I was a Democrat and I definitely thought I was on the left. Obama was pretty cool, but I was just partying and doing stupid stuff. That was like my life. She was like she worked for the left. Her mom worked for an organization that was funded by George Soros back in Florida called
For real? What?
Organized Florida. If you look at her arm, she has a tattoo that says it's like a BLM fist on her arm, right? So this girl was in deep.
Wow.
And she just started someday, I'll give you a short story. She started questioning things that were at this organization she was working for, and they basically told her like you can't ask those questions. And so she ended up quitting and she did a bunch of research, on her own and eventually ended up going on TikTok and making conservative videos there. And then PragerU found her and brought her out for a test filming and she came out, did a test filming with us. It was actually funny. The first video that she ever came and did, this was about 6 months ago. She hasn't been here all that long, 6 or 7 months ago.
Wow, that's
And the
it.
first
Huh.
video we had her do with me was something that our producer Taylor he made up. It was like reading conservative pickup lines to each other. If you know anything about Amala, she's very giggly and she's not like the most how do I put this?
She's
When
not
she
a
just
thought. She's like, she's like a conservative babe. Like, to me, it seems like she's
right,
not, she's not thirsty.
right, exactly. And
She's not
she's
trying to get the
the
tea.
right, exactly. And so the point of it is like there was not supposed to laugh. Whoever was saying the joke was not supposed to laugh. I don't laugh. If someone tells me not to laugh, I will never laugh. Okay, that's
Wow, you
just
have
how.
such
That's just
restraint. This sounds like a challenge.
it is. It is. Well, you can work on your jokes, and we'll see if you can
Okay.
do something. But I remain
Okay,
very
good.
stoic. But I might just laugh, feeling bad for you too, because I don't want this is your own show.
Oh
I
my
would feel
god, a
horrible
pity laugh.
if I didn't
All
do that.
right.
But we did it, and she laughed the whole time, and I didn't laugh while we were doing this video, and she ended up thinking it was really bad, and she was really nervous. And then, but I went and told the upper management. I was like, she was great. This was really good, even though she was a little nervous. And we ended up giving her a job. And then a couple months after she started working here, we started doing some show stuff and just really just experimenting, just throwing whatever against the wall and seeing if something worked. And it worked. And it was really great that we had great chemistry and charisma together, and our show just kind of took off from there. And so now we've been doing the show daily, every day at 2:30 Pacific on the PragerU YouTube and Facebook.
Wow, that's amazing. I'm gonna pull up a little bit because I love this set here. I love that you're
Thank you.
and where are you guys both based out of LA then? Is PragerU based out of LA?
We are. Yeah, we're over here in Los Angeles. I live over in Hollywood.
Good for you for holding it down over there. I'm gonna play a little bit of this.
You back on the show today. I just want to thank you for that first and foremost.
This is
A lot of
beautiful.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Okay, great. Now, a lot of Americans are concerned about the Omicron variant, particularly Americans that
Are you
currently
like the
overseas.
she's more serious and you're kind of like you keep it light? Is that your dynamic?
It's a difference.
Basically, if you're coming
She, like, you can hear me here. I'm doing a Dr. Fauci impression. You know,
You
it's
are.
yeah.
Omicron variant or whatever else you got to be tested.
Okay, gotcha. And
See,
this
there's
is
my
not
Dr.
a
Fauci right
concern
there.
from me necessarily, as I work at CNN. I don't know why I would truly ask you this, but there are mutters here of illegal immigrants coming across the southern border of the United States. Are they going to have to be tested?
Could you repeat the question?
Sure.
I
Are
love your
illegal
Fauci.
immigrants coming across our southern
Yeah, so
border
we start
going to
every
have
one
to
of our episodes with a skit
And
based on a
just-
story that we are going to talk about.
First of all,
Oh, that's
no one's-
great.
Yeah.
See, it's exactly that. Getting people through laughter. And you guys are so lovable.
Okay, are the undocumented migrants
So,
going to
sorry,
have
you
to-
broke up for 1 second. I didn't
Oh, I
actually
said you
hear
guys are so lovable. Like you're
Oh,
just
thank you. That's really nice of you.
you both look like you could still be in college and this is like, I don't know. It's just
Don't know what
Can you
the-
explain how it's
even
Well, that's
like
why
with
I grew the beard.
Oh yeah, to see Mulder.
Yeah, exactly.
when you're coming across
Oh, that's
But
awesome.
yeah, so we just have a great dynamic together. It's been really successful, and we're really excited to see, how much it goes. So the reason why I'm not in that studio, which I would usually be filming this, is because we're actually setting it up new in a room over here in our new office. So hopefully by the next time I come on the show, we'll have a new studio set up.
Okay, great. So you guys are holding it down in Los Angeles. I'm sure your friends are bombarding you with suggestions of where else you should move to. Are you like a Los Angeles lifer? No, you said you went to school in Colorado.
Uh-huh.
You're from Colorado?
Yeah, I'm from Colorado.
Okay. So then when you got picked up to Prager, they said come down to LA.
Basically, yeah. So I had to leave, and I didn't really know what I was getting into. When I left college, I had no money, no friends, no any. I just came out here not knowing anything.
Yeah, it was either
And it was
PragerU or OnlyFans, and
Yeah, exactly.
made the right choice.
Yeah. Well, you can do them both, right?
That's true. That's so
it's the same
true.
thing. But I moved out to Los Angeles, and it was a culture shock for sure. And now there's a lot of things I actually love about Los Angeles. I don't want to say it's all bad. I love how it feels like the entire world is here. It is a very culture centric place, like where everyone comes, and there's a lot of food and entertainment and people and things like that, which is so cool. I really do love that about LA. The weather's nice, it's beautiful everywhere outside. It's a great place to be for that. But the politics, the cost of living, the homelessness, I mean, there are so many problems here that make it, and also just not even that, just the entertainment industry. I hate a lot of these people. So I don't necessarily like living here. I would definitely move. The reason why I'm here is because of PragerU. If it wasn't for PragerU, I would leave LA, tomorrow and get out of here.
Do you think PragerU is thinking about maybe setting up, maybe depending on how the mandates go or progress, that they would possibly set up shop somewhere else more friendly?
We've definitely thought about it. It's something that is a little out of my pay grade to know about what they're going to do.
Mhm.
I'm just the face. They're the man. So I don't know exactly what is going to happen, but we can hope.
Yeah, it's scary. Like I feel you because I live in New York, like born and raised New Yorker. I've
Mhm.
been going back and forth like into the city. I don't live in the city. I haven't for a couple of years. Like I was in Brooklyn, Queens, whatever. Now I'm
Okay.
in Westchester, and
Got it.
it's pretty scary. Although like I'm able to go in every Monday, do my compound media show. Like I know what places to go to that aren't going to check papers, and part of me does sort of like grieve the loss of like not like I would want to just go to a Broadway show now or like not like I need to hit up a fancy restaurant. Like yesterday I was like, "Whoa, I got in and out of a bagel shop and nobody checked, and they have these scary signs like masked and you got to have your Vax card." So I just like went in because I heard they have really good bagels. Nobody said anything. And that was like, and then I'm like, this is sad that this is a victory, like that I was able to get a bagel.
I know.
So, and I do kind of miss like not being able to go to a nice restaurant. But then I'm like, all right, I'm saving money. And then I just think, well, how long are we going to go on like this? Is, our cities like LA and New York City just a testing ground for this?
Yeah, I think that it's going to get worse. I hear conflicting things from other people, but the Prime Minister of New Zealand just came out and said this is never going to end. I mean, they're coming out today saying that there's going to need to be, in Israel, they came out and said there needs to be 7 boosters until life can go back to normal. I mean, it has gotten so insane with people, and people will continually bend over backwards for it. So I think it will get worse. I mean, Austria now in Europe now has mandatory vaccinations by February 1st. You have to be vaccinated, or you could potentially go to jail or face serious fines. Germany is locking down the unvaccinated. Even though Germany has 70% vaccinated and they have the highest cases ever, they are locking down the unvaccinated in their country. So I only see these things getting worse from here. And people talking, like you were just talking about New York and all these things. People ask me, they're like, why are you always talking about the COVID stuff? I spend a lot of time on my social media and on my show talking about the COVID stuff. And it's like, because this is the most important thing. This authoritarianism that we are seeing, it has happened before, and this is the most important thing that we have to talk about and do not comply and not complying, having no compliance with people who want to inflict tyrannical agendas onto me. I will not let them. I will not let these people do it.
It is scary because there's so many people who don't realize that is what this is about. Like, I was just talking to my boyfriend earlier, and he was, he was like tweeting at this girl. She does movie reviews. Her name's Grace Randolph. Like, she has a big following, very like well known in this sort of like geek sphere, and he like commented, she tweeted out like, you guys got to get vaccinated, it's free, it saves lives, just like classic plug for the jab. And he was like, actually, I know more people who've been injured and died from it than who have actually died from COVID. And she just wrote back like, that's bullshit. And we were talking about it. He's like, wow, like I just can't believe this sort of public figure would say something so definitive like that on my real lived experience. And I'm just like, I think with so many people, and especially if they have a big following, it's like they just complied. They got the vax. They were lucky not to be injured from it. They were lucky not to know anyone who died from it or miscarried from it, like we know. And it's just, especially someone like her who makes a good living, lives in a nice apartment. Her life has been pretty much unchanged the last 2 years, like especially almost like functioning like an elite would. Like, hey, well, I have
Yep.
money for private security. I have money to live in a doorman building. I've been able to live my life basically, unrestricted this whole time. And it's to them, it doesn't seem like tyrannical. It doesn't seem like authoritarian to them, because they're just like, oh, I just went along with it and nothing happened to me. So to them, it is no big deal. And to them, they can say, why don't you just do it? What's wrong with you? And I feel like there is a certain type of lefty, especially in cities like New York and LA, there's a certain type of like elitist lefty that they just love to look down on others. They love to feel superior. Especially if you're living in the city, you can justify like, I live in a shoebox, but I'm around the culture. And I'm just noticing that same attitude when it comes to the vaccine. And I just, it not that it's this like battle of wrong and right. Again, get it if you want, but it does bother me that people who haven't been affected by it yet, or maybe never, they don't see this for what it is, which is a power grab, which is about control. It's not just about like, do you put weird things in your body or not? Are we arguing, is this a real vaccine or not? And I think we waste so much time in those arguments instead of seeing. So it's like, how do we work to show people like what this really is?
Yeah, I think I was reading Alex Berenson. I'm not sure if you're familiar with who he
Oh,
is.
yeah, he had these little, like, pamphlet books about COVID. I bought one from Amazon. I haven't read it yet,
Yeah,
but I
he's
will.
great. He's great, but he has a Substack. I subscribe to his Substack, and he was talking about like this exact thing the other day. And he said that when you are talking to people about the pandemic and the vaccine, and you don't need to get into all the nitty gritty of the 1 in 27 young men are having myocarditis from the vaccine, or even all the numbers and all that kind of stuff. We need to ask people and say, if the vaccines work, why is this still happening, right? And talk to them about this and just get into a basic conversation with people and understand that. And when it comes to people saying, well, it's the new variant, and it's caused by the unvaccinated. You have essentially with a flu shot, okay? A flu shot is different every single year because it's a different strain of the flu. Saying that you are going to take the original booster, like Dr. Fauci is telling you, take the original booster for the vaccines is like taking a flu shot for a strain of the flu from 3 years ago. Okay? That is essentially what they are doing here with all of this. It is total control. But like the great Andrew Breitbart said, I mean, politics is downstream from culture. And with all of those people, like you're talking about, that movie review geek girl, and all these people in Hollywood who just say, do it, you idiots, and you just need to do it. And if you don't, you're a bad
They get
person.
angry about it.
They get so angry. They get so upset. That's how you know that they're wrong, because they get so angry. And it's why you know they're only doing it for their moral justification, because they get angry
Or
because
for
they
this
can't
moral
feel
justification. Yeah.
yeah, and they can't feel moral about it, right? If someone comes in and exposes, it's like if you have a little kid and they do something that they think is really great, and then the parent comes in and tells them that, oh, you shouldn't actually be doing that. The little kid gets mad. He gets mad at the parent. He's like, no, I can do this. I can do this. And it's like the same with these Hollywood celebrities and these elitists in Washington, all these places, because they get upset when these things happen because they think they're on this moral pedestal. And then when you come and expose them, they don't want to let that go. They don't want to admit that they were wrong. They don't want to admit that all of this is just about control, or the science is wrong, or giving it to 5 to 11-year-olds is wrong, even though they have a 99.99% chance of survival, even higher than that. These people have no accountability for their actions. I talk about this almost every day on my show, that the biggest problem in America today is that people have no accountability for their actions. This is why people love Jordan Peterson so much, because Jordan Peterson's entire mantra can basically be distilled down into 2 words: personal responsibility. That is what people are craving in their lives. And when they see so many people around the country who do not have personal responsibility and do not have to be held accountable for their actions, then they're basically like, we need something new. We need something new. That's why it's so divided. It's really sad.
That's why Jordan Peterson is so loved. Like he was part of my changing my mind a couple of years ago. Like when that
Same.
his first, I have it over here. I haven't finished it yet. The
12 Rules?
12 Rules, like the original one, that
Mhm.
really changed my life. I remember I would just like listen to it in the tub and I'd be like, oh my God, like something so small, like keeping your room clean, or like make sure your own shit is settled before you before you judge somebody else.
Mhm.
It just blew my mind. And I'm like, yeah, he's like the daddy of personal responsibility. And he's somebody who's kind of helping to make it cool, which we need more of. And just that switch, it's like working hard and taking responsibility for your life is actually the way to true lasting happiness, not just buying shit and like owning someone on Twitter, although
Right.
occasionally that's fun.
Yeah. Well, Jordan Peterson takes a lot from Nietzsche, which is my favorite philosopher, about, like the will to power. If you guys are familiar with that at all, essentially, it's like how you can become powerful over yourself, self-overcoming. And all of those things kind of work together to make you into this Ubermensch, as Nietzsche calls it, which is like the Superman, essentially. And you do that by getting away from the herd, getting away from the other people who will let you have these bad actions and this immorality, and they'll justify it by saying, well, it's okay because everyone else is doing it. You are escaping from that, and you are having personal responsibility, and you are living as an individual instead of as a collective of a society. That is Marxism. Marxism, cultural Marxism, postmodernism, all these things want you to act as just another cog in a machine. Another cog in a machine that if you fell out, they could replace you with someone else. Being that individual, becoming that Ubermensch, that higher man, is what we strive to do. And if you have no personal responsibility and you can't take accountability for the things that you do wrong, then you will never be that person. You will be a mediocre person your entire life.
Yeah, and you'll just be reactive to everything
Yeah.
around you instead of planning and building and like conscious creation. It sounds like, one's understanding of Marxism is so key to understanding what's going on right now. Like if you understand that and that's the lens on which you look through everything, then you can sort of begin to wake up and go, oh, this isn't about being woke or politically correct or like evolving to be a more conscious, inclusive society, or all the other like bullshit buzzwords that they like to use. And you're like, because I think most people go, oh, Marxism, that's something else. That's something from history. That's not here and now. That's something for other countries. And I think the powers that be have done like a pretty good job framing everything that's happening through, oh, this is just, we're evolving. We're being inclusive. We're prioritizing equity.
Hmm. Again, that's why you got to read the Saul Alinsky's 12 Rules for Life, because and all the other things. I mean, go back and look at the Frankfurt Scroll. Look at Edward Murrow back in the day. Look at Woodrow Wilson and his policies and things he was thinking about. I mean, you can go back and look through American history, and you can find all of the steps. Horkheimer, like all these people, like find out the steps of how these people actually instituted this into American life. It started with the universities, then with Alinsky, who was able to push it into entertainment and culture. I mean, it is truly insidious. And while the right was sleeping on the job and not worried about culture, they were worried about writing about how this policy is going to help with tax cuts, and they thought, it could just be distilled by some guy on AM radio. The left was taking over TV, they were taking over the universities, they were taking over everything during the Cultural Revolution. And because of that, we have lost all of these battles. And so this is like circling back to what I said at the beginning about the NBC thing. It's like, we want to win these battles, we got to get into these places. If someone asks you to come on a leftist show as a conservative and they are going to make fun of you on that show purposefully, go get made fun of on that show and expose them for their lies. Be well researched, be someone who knows what you're talking about, be well composed. Go into these places where the left dominates and destroy them and take them over and let them know that we're not playing around anymore. We are no longer going to be controlled by your Marxist tendencies. We want a free America.
Yeah, absolutely. I almost feel like maybe conservatives were like, oh, well, we're above being influenced by culture and academia, so we'll just assume that everyone else will be sort of like above that. And it's like, no, like that stuff is so powerful. It's so like insidious. It's just it gets under your skin and it changes your mind. It really kind of runs your life for you sometimes. It's so easy to go through life unconscious.
That is exactly right. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. Conservatives think like, oh, we just need to be these serious people and the facts
Yeah.
will win people over. It's just the facts. That's what we need to do. And it's like, that's not really the way that it always works. You got to have the facts and the emotion. I don't get it when conservatives are like, oh, all these leftists, all they do is use emotions. I'm like, yeah, they only use emotions, but it works. And I'm not saying to only use emotions, but you can use your facts with your emotions. That is how people connect to something. You want them
And
to connect to you.
it's so basic and so human. So to ignore that is like really bad. This is a
Right.
super chat from Trinoculus. Will, what are your thoughts about the kingdom of God versus politics?
Thank you, Trinoculus. And your dog is cute in your picture. I just
Aw.
want to say, I have a dog as well. So
What
I
kind of
love that.
dog?
I have Rocky. He's a lab mastiff mix. He's about 100 pounds. So
That's like
he's
a
massive.
person.
Yeah, no, he's a massive individual. So, but I love him. Anyway, so I was baptized this January, on January 16th of this year.
Oh,
It
wow.
was one of the best decisions I've ever made. And getting baptized is something that you realize is so important because it gives you a grounding for many of the politics that you have. Okay. What's so important for me about doing that, especially with what I do for work and going out and talking to people and spreading my messages and all that stuff,
Were you
is that
atheist or were you just like, were
I was
you
atheist my whole
okay?
life. I mean, when I was growing up, I was very atheist. I would go and tell people how stupid God was and all of that. Like that was my thing. Even though I wasn't a huge leftist, I was a huge atheist. But the values that you have in your politics stem from a biblical place, especially if you're a conservative. I mean, only if you're a conservative. If it's Marxism, then it comes from their new religious place. But all of the values that you have come from a biblical place. And so we talk about truth and we talk about absolutes all the time. The only way that there is an absolute truth is if there is a God. And so the reason why I'm able to spread the values that I spread is because I know that there is an absolute truth. And, maybe sometimes I am not spreading that absolute truth. I try my best to. We all sin and we all can be corrupted at times. And that is a real symptom of life. And it's very difficult. But with my kingdom, or will you phrase it as a kingdom of God, having that in my life, having God in my life has been the greatest thing, because it is where I get my strength from and where I know that the things that I am potentially saying are actually absolute, and there is no moral subjectivism to anything that I'm saying.
What turned you around in particular to, wanting to follow God or wanting to work on that relationship?
So I read, it was actually two things. One, I mean, it was reading the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, and that you have inalienable rights given to you by your creator, endowed on you by your creator. No other country in the world has that. Okay, that is a uniquely American thing. And someone, when I was becoming a conservative, reading this and saying, wow, like that I love these founding fathers now that I've researched them, like that's actually very cool. But I still wasn't religious, but it like turned me on. And then when the pandemic started, I was like, all right, you know what? I'm gonna read the Bible. I'm gonna stop screwing around and just read it. And so I read the four gospels, you know, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And I read those and I said, listen, if what is in here is true, because now I have read it. Now I have no excuses.
Have you
If
read the
what is
whole
in here,
thing?
no, I read the four gospels.
Okay.
I read the four
Is
gospels.
that the most important?
Yeah, that was my thing.
I want to
And
read
so I
it
read,
too. I've just been like delaying it because it's so long.
yeah, I know. Read the four gospels. That's where I
Okay.
would start. I mean, I would read the four gospels, and then you could also read the first 5 books of the Old Testament as well. Those would be my recommendations. But I read the four gospels and I said, okay, if this is true, that Jesus really died for my sins and gave his life for this, then I have no other choice but to give my life to him. I either have the choice to give my life to him because I have read it and I have experienced it and I believe it, or I reject it and I do not believe it. And so because of that, I decided it was true, and I gave my life to Christ after that.
Wow. That's a different kind of a story than usually what I hear from people. It's either like I was, you know, raised this way, Christian parents, or someone has like a rock bottom experience in their life or some kind of like trauma, tragedy, like some kind of a like car accident or near death, or, you know, spouse leaves them. So that's pretty cool. I really like that story.
Thank you. Yeah, there was no rock bottom moment or like, you know, I woke up with the needle in my arm and then I knew I had to,
Covered in
go
dollar
like,
bills and
yeah,
peanut butter.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was nothing like that. It's just I feel like that with most things. Like when I read something or I'm watching something, or, you know, this was just on a grander scale. You either watch something and you believe it and you live by it because that is the truth, or you do not. And that is kind of just if anyone knows me personally, I am a very 100 or 0 person. I'm either very on with something or very off with something. That's just, I'm stubborn, and that's how I
All
am.
or nothing. Are you a
Yeah.
Virgo?
Wow, I am a Virgo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was right.
I
Woo!
don't see. I don't really believe in any of that stuff, but
That's such
maybe
a
it's
Virgo
true.
thing to say. No, I say that
Is
with
it?
everybody.
You do that with everybody? Okay, fine. I'm
I
actually very surprised you could guess that.
I try to guess people's sign, and it feels good to be right. No, my dad's a Virgo, and he's very like all or nothing, my way or the highway.
Okay,
But he's
yeah,
also
got it.
German, so there's a lot going on there
Okay,
too.
I have some German. I'm a little bit German.
Cool.
So, yeah.
We have a message from Ireland. Ireland is 93% vaxxed, and we need a vax pass to get into the gym.
Yeah, and they also have some of the highest cases right now. They've I think their cases went up. I think I posted about this on my Twitter and my Instagram. I'm trying to remember the exact number, but I think it was like cases were up 271%, I believe, in Ireland, even with 93% vaccinated, the highest cases they have ever seen. So, I mean, for people to come out and say that you have to have this vax for it to work and for it to protect you and all this, I mean, it is not true. I mean, it is not true. I mean, all these vaccines and the masks even and everything else is not even approved by the FDA. I mean, these are EUAs, emergency use. What's that?
Yeah, emergency
Yeah,
use authorization. Yeah, that
yeah,
they've been
exactly. Yeah,
stringing and
that's
stringing along. Yeah.
right, exactly. So, like all these things, if they really worked the way they were supposed to, then they would be approved by the FDA. But even on the National Institute of Health's own website, you can find studies on there that show that masks do not actually protect you unless it's an N95. Do
On
not
the
actually
box
protect you from viral.
itself, it said that at one point, like when you buy certain masks, it would say, and
I
then
know.
Fauci at the beginning. Well, we've all seen those clips of Fauci at the beginning being like, "I wouldn't recommend a mask. Save them for the
No
nurses."
mask. No
Yeah.
mask. I don't need a mask. Yeah, exactly.
George Habib has a question. Thanks for the super chat. How confident are you in the new generation of Trump-ish candidates taking back the House? Are you concerned some might be planted, i.e., Stovall? I don't know who Stovall is.
So Stovall is a guy from Arizona, the guy who just got exposed by Project Veritas. I believe it was yesterday when it came out.
Ooh,
So I would definitely recommend everyone to check that out. But yes, I am a little bit worried. I'm concerned about some of them because I think that just like, the MAGA movement when it started in 2016, and that was when I got into politics, I latched onto the MAGA movement. Okay. And because the MAGA movement, just like for the people who are in the UK with the Brexit movement and the people in Hungary when they were having their right wing populist movement, that was
the
even earlier.
Hungry
That was
movement.
2015.
Yeah.
People take over. Say that again.
I was making a joke that it was called like the hungry
Oh.
movement. It's just people that want to
Yeah.
eat more. That's terrible.
Yeah, no, I'm always a part of that movement. So
Yeah.
no, this is the Hungary movement with their leadership. But the MAGA movement now has become somewhat corporatized, where people have said, I can profit off this. I can profit off being a MAGA guy, and I'm going to say America first and all that. And you're still the same old hat career politician guy, loser, who is going to sell out this country as soon as you can. So just because someone
who are the
says,
biggest examples of that right now that you feel like are the kind of the most egregious or the most obvious?
I mean, I would say this guy Stovall. I mean, he seems to be one of these types of people right now that have been exposed. I mean, the Kimberly Klacik types and things like that Candace talks about. I mean, all these people are very good at raising money because they tap into something that I think a lot of the old school is not used to. You know, they say, "Oh, I need to I'm this new candidate, and then I'm gonna really take it back this time," and then they end up, you know, the money goes to themselves or paying off people who did them favors, things like that. So just because you say that you are America first or say that you want to make America great again does not mean that you have to. So it takes the voter actually doing the digging and finding out about these people. Okay, we all can be a little bit of a James O'Keefe and a Project Veritas when it comes to someone running in our state, in our local office, for president, whatever it is, and saying, all right, we need to make sure that this person is good because we can't afford another Congress full of Mitch McConnells and all these other guys. We need more Paul Gosars. That's what we really need. More Paul Gosars, Marjorie Taylor Greens.
True. Okay. This is from Quid Pro Quo. Just because Kyle was just on the Blaze like this past couple days ago, is PragerU gonna have Kyle Rittenhouse on anytime soon?
Yeah, so I'm in touch with his PR team to try and get him on my show. So hopefully that happens. Not exactly sure if it'll happen because he's really only been doing in-person interviews, and I don't think he's coming to LA, which is probably for the best. But you know,
you
yeah,
might need a
sad.
wig or something, or might like
Exactly.
a bald cap and a fat suit or something.
You know, I mean, he has to go around with security everywhere he goes. You know,
Poor Button. I'm hoping that like as he over the next few years, like when his face matures a little bit more, that he'll look a little different and he won't be
yeah,
so like noticeably baby faced. But
yeah, exactly.
But yeah, people were giving him a ton of shit for going on the Blaze. Like, how dare he? Oh, look at what was it? It was somebody from Barstool yesterday.
Yeah, the Barstool guy. Yeah.
It was like I think the @ was KFC Barstool, and he's like, "Oh, is
Yep.
there a bigger loser than Kyle Rittenhouse?" And he's just talking about how he wants to meet a girl with like boobs and a big butt. We all want that. Like, we all love boobs. And he's 18, whatever, 17, 18 years old.
Right.
Do you think this is a bad idea? I mean, clearly you're trying to get him on your show, but I personally don't think. I mean, he's let him be normal, and if part of being normal is kind of like going on these shows where he looks like a regular person and he can sort of start to destigmatize what people. I mean, I guess the people that want to think of him as racist are not going to watch him on the Blaze or on your show.
Right. Right.
But do you think it's unwise for him, or should he be like laying real low?
No, I do not think those kind of things are unwise. I think that as a voice for people, I think that it is wise that he goes on there. I think it's wise that he talks about the right things. But what would be unwise is if, you know, and I can talk about this from experience, is partying. He needs to. I'm sure that now with a lot of people knowing him, and that comes girls, that comes drinking, that comes all these kind of things. You got to, because these people, the left isn't going to watch his show and say, oh, I'm listening to his political thoughts. They're going to say he's a racist. They're not going to listen to his show and say, oh, here's what he thinks about, you know, LeBron. They're going to say, here's what he did when he was out drunk the other night. You know, it's like those are the things that they're going to do. So as someone who is in a place where he can be so easily ridiculed, that is the advice that I can give. As someone who has experienced that firsthand, I mean, that is what you really have to do.
Did
You have to be that responsible person.
Did you kind of get shit for like being seen out partying or something like that? Like,
no, just that there's, you know, those kind of situations
Okay.
can lead into things that are like, you know, you're gonna do something stupid.
More
You're gonna do
fame.
something dumb. You
Yeah.
know, exactly. And once that happens, and it's like, you know, and he's in a much higher profile position than any of us. You know, I mean, he's like one of the most famous people in America right now. He can't go anywhere without someone knowing him. And so the level of scrutiny that will be placed on him, that it's like one mistake that he makes like that would be terrible, you know. And it's not for America, it's not for conservatism for him to do that. It's for him, you know. It's for him. It would be wise for him to do that, you know. And that's really tough.
Yeah, and he said they're gonna melt down the gun that he had, and I'm thinking like,
Yeah.
you could auction that off. Like somebody would pay for that. Like some dude would
Yeah, I
just like
know, right?
have it in their living room next to like a stuffed polar bear or something.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, he has to be, I think, very careful. Like I wasn't politically one way or the other when I was that age, but even if he is, I think he has to be so careful not to let on if he is more on the right or more conservative, because they're already painting him that way. They're already
Right.
painting him as some kind of like MAGA mascot.
Exactly.
So poor kid. I hope it sounds like he's surrounded by good people.
I hope so too.
And he's at the age where you want to drink. So
I know. I know. I know.
he's gonna
Just
have to
gotta
be
be
on
careful.
the
Gotta be
O'Doul's
careful.
plan for a while.
Yeah, exactly.
People are saying in the chat, "Oh, people have been saying to me for a while to get Candace on the podcast." Did she start out with PragerU and now she's at Daily Wire, or did she kind of always do both?
She was kind of doing her own thing. Then she did some stuff with PragerU and did her show on here, and now she's with the Daily Wire.
Yeah. I remember I watched like a clip of her and Nicole Arbor, and she just was like, she went on her so hard. I feel like she's somebody you don't want to get on her bad side because she'll just like make you cry. But
Yeah, yeah, it's not the best. Luckily, Candace and I are good friends.
yeah,
So
I think, you know what? I think she's not like anybody is like perfect. I think she makes an impact because she has like an aggressive debate style, and she holds people to account, and she,
yeah,
she holds people to
exactly.
what they say. I like
Exactly.
her.
She's a
I like
fire starter. I
Yeah.
like that too.
She has spunk.
Yeah, spunk is good.
As you will. Yay. Oh, I forgot to do my read. Guys, I don't know, Will, do you struggle with anxiety? I sure do. Here it comes. Oh no, it's gone. I can talk about it anyway. Cushy Dreams, guys. Go to cushydreams.com and use promo code CMP to get 20% off. Cushy Dreams specialize in high quality CBD products. They do pre-rolls in tins, and they also have these are the pre-rolls. They also have bud just in tins if you like to smoke out of like a glass elephant or something. I don't know. You can enjoy all the health benefits of CBD without getting high. Join the men and women who are sick of gummies and vapes and want to smoke their CBD. They have different indica sativa blends like Relax, Create, Dream, Hustle. So whatever you're feeling, Cushy Dreams has your back. Go to cushydreams.com. That's KUSHY dreams.com. Use promo code CMP in the checkout to get 20% off. Woo! Will, let's see. Let me put your book up again because I know I'm gonna buy it. How to Win
Thank you.
Friends and Influence Enemies, Taking on Liberal Arguments with Logic and Humor. This looks good. This looks like kind of a guide for anybody that you can use maybe at work with friends and family, or even, if you want to go onto Facebook, get back into Facebook and argue with people there.
That is exactly right. It is 17 different chapters, each one on a different political or cultural topic that you can have the tools and persuasion tactics where you can change people's minds. That is what it's really about. I didn't want to just make a book that said the left sucks. I want to say the left sucks and here's how you can change it.
That's true. That's true. Like practical solutions.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. And that we can't avoid, like, you're not somebody who avoids these conversations or these debates because like you have to not be, afraid of conflict. You just kind of have to embrace all of this because that's how we ultimately, all come together. And you can't be afraid to talk to somebody with a different opinion.
Exactly.
Will, where can people follow you? Where can they catch your shows? I know PragerU is on YouTube, but you can also subscribe to PragerU.
Yeah, PragerU.com for any of my stuff, and then at the Will Witt is all my social media. So that's LinkedIn, Snapchat, all the big ones like that. But also Instagram, Twitter, things that too.
Are you on TikTok?
I am. I don't really post too much on TikTok, but I'm on there. So
You're
unfortunately.
on there. Yeah. The more places you can show that great head of hair, the better. That's
exactly. As many places as possible need to be blessed.
Thank you, chat, for your comments and questions. Everybody, pick up his book, How to Win Friends and Influence Enemies. Follow Will Witt at the Will Witt on all platforms. Check out his videos for PragerU. You've done quite a bit, so it's very impressive.
Thank you.
And who needs college, right?
You don't. You don't need it.
No, you
Well,
don't.
not always, but
Not now. It's kind of, it was I feel like I was tricked. Like, what? Okay. I have a communications degree. Big deal. What am I doing with it? Well, I guess I'm communicating now.
You're communicating.
All right.
That's
Well,
good.
I'm doing it. Thank you so much for coming on. It was great to meet you. We'll talk again soon. Until next time, guys. Bye.